For public safety gets monetization turned back on. How is Chili DeCastro not a public figure when he keeps saying he's a public figure? Plus, what was he doing roaming the streets of Las Vegas last night? And a special reading by Pants of a special poem to help usher in Chili DeCastro's 50th year. All this and more on this edition of Auditing Insanity. Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Auditing Insanity Newscast brought to you by ReallyCoolNews. I'm Jim Finch and I'll be your host for another edition of this podcast featuring a whole host of stories on Chili DeCastro in celebration of the Big 5-0. Yes, Chili is officially too old for his juvenile and stupid behavior. So what is he doing? Acting even more stupid and juvenile because you can't make me grow up. I'm a goddamn Toys R Us kid and I'm gonna show the world. You won't believe his latest lunacy as we ask you to focus on... For public safety, remonetized by YouTube. As if this one just wrote itself, just as we wrote that everything to do with Christopher Public Safety Reader was a pain in the ass and not worth covering in our last article about him, he announced that his channel was remonetized and the crisis he was facing is over. Reader posted this on his YouTube community page. The appeal video was successful. The channel is back in perfect health. Thank you all for your patience. Kaiser and Scarborough did a live stream last night bragging that they were the false reports. And that was that. Reader crisis averted. He turned his attention to Christopher Direct D Ruff in his latest live stream, referring to Ruff as Indirect D. He criticized the First Amendment auditor for spilling tea on his fellow auditors and his violent criminal history. He brought up Ruff's criticism of his 25-year-old charges of DV that Reader previously faced as being ironic in comparison to what he said was Ruff's charges of armed robbery that earned him felon status, claiming that Ruff is now working in conjunction with Fraudit Wrangler and a reality star ex-girlfriend of Reader's to defame him. Reader warned that ex-girlfriends weren't great sources of the truth, and that Ruff was a bitch and a troll and involved with the group that led the complaints against him that resulted in his demonetization on YouTube. The monetization of Reader's channel came and went quickly after what he claimed was an organized effort by trolls in the United States government. Reader was forced to appeal to YouTube via video before it made the final decision to restore monetization to his channel. His new status brought no movement to his GoFundMe campaign, which saw no new donations yet again yesterday. Our own ongoing expenses campaign took the day with a $10 donation. On that note, as we sing for our supper and bring you new stories each day, we'd be remiss if we didn't remind you that you can continue to force me to write this dreadful column each day by contributing to the GoFundMe of our own. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org.
In the land of glitz and glamour came a man who stood below the lights and ceilings put in place by the rulers who were on the blow. Chili by name, Chili by game, a prince of thieves and fools, would hawk his worthless products and take the police to school. Lawsuit after lawsuit, insult and threatened wrestle and punch. His viewers would tune in each night and see the other auditors eat his lunch. I am the one. I am the hero of the story, he'd cry with feigned fury and rage. but all would see a little man crying and shouting, never immortalized on the page. So as Chili turns 50, he runs up and over the hill. We wish him psychological help and a diagnosis and a large bill. For yelling and screaming, prank calling, and the charade won't be remembered as you're another day closer to your grave. Wise up, settle down, and think, oh little chilly man, about the life you could be having if you could only understand. Societal change won't happen, but there can be a change or two if you just stop being an asshole and put some work into you. Happy birthday, Chili, and fuck right off and back, as you're now much too old for this, and please stop doing crack. Embrace your family. Embrace Charlie. Embrace everything that stays. You'll be happier, oh tiny little man, if you just change your ways. Chili at 50. Fuck off right now and again. A hi-ho and away you go, a step closer to the end.
Jose Chili de Castro in the Dream of Fame. A recent ruling by a California court said that Jose Chili de Castro was a normie, a private figure, not famous, not anything special, and certainly not a public figure. Unless, maybe. The blow to de Castro's ego on this one has to be stupendous. He clearly considers himself a public figure because, besides running for governor, he's got a history of declaring himself a public figure. We can point to two huge examples that most anyone who has followed de Castro has seen. The first came when he was upset with Ironton, Ohio, and he was going to file his never-ending federal civil rights lawsuit against the police force. He said, "When someone called me and said, hey, someone made a video about you, or someone said something about you, I just don't really care that much. I just don't really care. It didn't really matter to me because it didn't really matter at the end of the day. Changing the world requires that you are a public figure. People are going to talk about you no matter what you do. That's why I can't sue some of the individuals that I want to sue." Remember when he went after Kate Peter and sought a protective order? He literally said, "I became a national figure when I created the timeline that shows the history of lynchings in our country and compared them to the history of prison charges. I became a national figure." More recently, he's talked about being famous in jail and how he can't walk down the street without someone mobbing him or knowing him for his hugely popular YouTube videos. He's often alluded to his great fame nationwide, telling his audience that they'll have to register to vote because they'll be needed to vote for him whenever he finally decides to pull the trigger or run for the governorship of a state to be named, eventually. And he was a former Power Ranger, the black one at that, for a handful of minutes before he got fired. Let alone, he was the promoter of the jock sock, the inventor too, and the super necessary human. These might not have brought him the greatest fame in the world, but he's known for them, and being known and thinking you're known means that proving you're not known, you're not famous, and that you're a pathetic, lonely little man who walks down the street at night talking randomly to a handful of real people and 50,000 bots from Asia and looking for police to flirt or interact with, who has no real fame or discernible social value past your graying hair, expanding belly, and, well, journalistic prowess? Wait, where were we? Oh, yes. Proving he's not known just to win a lawsuit will be the hardest thing he'll ever have to do. And for that, on your birthday, Jose Chili de Castro, we don't envy you. Here's to the average guy, the average gal and person, those underachievers, the never was, the failed Luke Skywalkers, and the masters of obscurity. Welcome, welcome, Chili Flippin' de Castro. You're one of us now. Happy birthday! Now call your mom to bring the soda pops and chips. It was your turn to bring snacks to bowling night. Don't this up, Chili. We're on our way to league championships, and you may be remembered if we can beat Troop 5509 tonight. Go team! De Castro street walks for cop encounters. Despite claims that he was heading back to Los Angeles the day before, Jose Chile de Castro spent the eve of his birthday walking the streets of Las Vegas looking for interactions with police officers at traffic stops. In a 12-minute-long live stream posted just hours before he turned 50 years old, the YouTuber encountered a bevy of local police at an apparent traffic stop and implored at least one officer to change his ways and become what's needed for society. De Castro approached an officer on his way back to his car and asked about changes made to police procedures, about the handling of First Amendment auditors after his multiple lawsuits against the city. The officer, not visibly recognizing De Castro, much to De Castro's disappointment as a public figure, said that changes had been made to the laws and procedures over the years and didn't see much of an impact from his perspective. De Castro interjected that he had performed audits on police officers in 30 different states and had only been arrested for his actions in Las Vegas, then implied that he would possibly be making money off his latest lawsuits against the city for his recently overturned conviction. The officer sidestepped the statement, but briefly engaged when De Castro pitched the idea of digital detainment and throwing wads of silly putty that contained tracking devices at fleeing cars instead of pursuing the vehicles, then sending a tow truck to impound the vehicles afterwards. The officer asked, "What if you missed in your throw?" and De Castro essentially blew him off, saying whatever crime wasn't that important. The officer asked him again what would happen if the person you then let go was a serial killer, and De Castro chided the officer, reminding him that the likelihood of a low-level police officer like himself encountering a serial killer was non-existent. De Castro claimed that his time in jail had changed his way of thinking and said that he was now going to work to bridge the gap between citizens and police. He continued, saying that police needed to put their egos aside and react passively to petty things done by suspects to prevent further escalations. The officer politely excused himself, and the other squad cars left the scene. After the police left, De Castro, standing on a random sidewalk with a dreary area of Las Vegas on display behind him, far from the bright lights and beauty of the Strip, went into a long speech about changing the system. He said that as governor, as city council member, or as whatever position in government he can achieve, he would change things as he was addicted to change, and he won't stop, never stop changing the system. De Castro then said all the independent First Amendment auditors needed to come together as a force, and in 2 weeks he'll be releasing a new video series that his fans will be very impressed with. The YouTuber ended the live stream by ordering his fans to respond in chat with the word algorithm and to go to each and every one of his previous videos and post the same word to activate YouTube's algorithm in order to increase the performance of his channel. We'll be having a Chili's Over the Hill party tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Really Cool News YouTube channel to celebrate his birthday. All are welcome. Come usher in the age of chili being over the hill. And we're back. We'll keep it short as it's Chili's birthday, and we're going to have a party tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern in just a few minutes, right here on YouTube. Click the link below to our main page once we wrap up, and come on down and share the night as we jump into things you may not know, things you may have forgotten, and things Chili wishes you would stop reminding him of. Be there, or NCR will add your daughters to his future wife or mistress list. See you in a few.